That makes me feel better. I like to hear recording in progress.
All right, and we are starting, and then I'll put up the slide.
Wonderful. So welcome to Tiny Habits for Fitness. You're here with 4 fitness experts who are Tiny Habits coaches. We're here to answer your questions today and give you a lot of great value and information around fitness. If you are just joining us, please type into the chat what your biggest question about getting fit is. What's your biggest challenge about getting fit? We will get started at the bottom of the hour, whatever your time zone is. It's 4:30 Pacific Standard Time over here. But as you're joining us, let us know, what's your biggest challenge around getting fit and fitness? Finding the time. Yeah, I feel you. Consistency and commitment. We've got solutions for you today around fitness, consistency and commitment. And spoiler alert, it doesn't have to do with willpower or discipline, but shh, don't tell. So if you're joining us right now, please answer, what is your biggest question, or what is your biggest challenge around fitness? Yeah, injury is a big issue. Maybe we should do it. We maybe do a rehab panel too, because we have some Tiny Habits coaches who are fitness too, injury experts as well. Overwhelm. You are not alone. If you're joining us, type in the chat what your biggest challenge is around fitness. I'm sure if you're reading the chat right now, you will see you are not alone. Motivation is a big issue. Overwhelm too. Injury. We have 4 fitness experts here who are going to share their best tips and guide you on how to use Tiny Habits to really have some long-term success. Yeah, you know, stick-to-itiveness. I feel you. Guess what? We've got your solutions. We're going to start in 2 minutes. So welcome everyone who's just joining us. Type in the chat, what's your biggest challenge around fitness? I see a lot of challenges that we have solutions to. Fitting it into your day, finding time. Yeah, there's some great challenges here, and we have a lot of solutions. So we're going to get started in 1 minute. We will definitely solve a lot of these challenges for you. So stay with us. Motivation is a big one. I hear you. I used to live in Chicago, so I relate to doing things outside in the cold. All right, it is right at the time, 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. Welcome to Tiny Habits for Fitness. We are joined here by 4 Tiny Habits certified coaches that will share their best fitness tips using the Tiny Habit method and their expertise. And you can put up the joint slides. I am Andrea Spiros. I am a Tiny Habits certified coach, just like the 4 fitness experts here today. I am a keynote speaker as well, and I work with organizations to support them using behavior design and Tiny Habit method. I am joined today by Tony Shurock. Tony, why don't you hop in and introduce yourself and give us a Tiny Habit recipe?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm Tony. I'm a personal trainer, a health behavior coach, and I also am a success coach at the University of Toledo. So I work with a lot of students, which is always fun. And you never know what you're going to get when folks come on in. Yeah, pretty much I like to really specialize in empowering beginners to just get started and to keep it simple and uncomplicated. And to have fun doing it. I think that's a key part here, as we get so wrapped up in wanting to be so serious about it. So really have fun doing it and bridging, maybe a morning routine, evening routine, sleep hygiene, and all sorts of fun stuff like that. So I'm a big fan of, one habit would be after I turn my phone off at night, I'll do a figure 4 or 2 figure 4 stretches. Because, for a variety of reasons we can get into, but yeah, definitely a big morning routine, evening routine coach when it comes to that point.
Awesome. And later on, we're going to talk about figure 4 stretches and what they are and have you describe them. So Josh Hollingsworth, introduce yourself and tell us what your tiny habit recipe is. Just start us out. We're giving teasers here. We know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, thanks for having me. Thanks for being here. I'm Josh Hollingsworth. I'm actually a pharmacology professor at VCOM Auburn, an osteopathic med school in Auburn, Alabama. So I teach pharmacology. I'm a pharmacist and researcher by training. I like to make the joke that I'm a pharmacist, but I know that most of the time for most people, behavior change is the best medicine, right? In particular, some physical activity, right? Our bodies were made to move. Let's move our bodies in ways that we enjoy and that's good for us. And the tiny habit recipe that I'll share is for all you coffee drinkers. After I hit start on the coffee maker, I'll do a couple of push-ups.
Awesome.
Me.
Let's go to Joshua. Tell us who you are and give us a tiny habit recipe to start us off.
Hi, I'm another Josh on the panel. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. So I've worked for the past 15 years, consulted with a lot of the major fitness companies here. And I've been doing tiny habits for about 6-7 years now. And specifically, I use it for weight management and body recomposition. So really focusing on those habits that are changing your body, not specifically even weight, just you want to build muscle, lose body fat. So there's a lot of intricacies with that, but in general, it really focuses on just core things: sleep, stress reduction, nutrition, movement, all of that. So that's my specific niche within the community that I focus in. One of my favorite tiny habits is after a commercial comes on, I will do a plank. So it's a nice little spot in your day where nothing's going on. Are you going to listen to somebody sell you cereal, or are you going to go down and do a plank, right? So it's finding those little areas in your day where you have a minute real estate where you can move and do something special. So that's the one that I recommend.
And after I saw that one, I thought, I'm going to do that. And then I realized when I do stream, I actually pay for no commercial. So it wasn't very good for me. So I was like, oh, I'm foiled. What will I do? And later we're going to talk about how you can expand that and grow that too. Jeff Gervitz, introduce who you are and give us a tiny habit recipe.
Thanks, Andy. My name is Jeff Gervitz. I run a personal training studio in Toronto since 2008. So for that entire time, we've focused on big picture health, how to make this happen. And over the years, again and again, the most common thing people would say to me would be, I know what to do, I just have to. And then they would insert some kind of statement about either discipline or motivation. It's so not a knowledge issue. And rather than trying to manipulate motivation, I was forever looking for more reliable ways to do this. If I can't get consistency out of a system, I don't have too much use for it. And for me, Tiny Habits was really a revelation in terms of creating reliable systems that people can use. And something's not working, we can troubleshoot, we can figure this stuff out. I'm also the host of the Dad Strength podcast. So I think about this, our tagline is, taking care of yourself so that you can be present for your people. So I think that your health, your well-being is really foundational to taking good care of your family. As far as a habit goes, I'm going to give you an exercise related one. So the feet are, there are conduits to the ground. If we're going to put force into the ground, which we are invariably doing, we need to be efficient with that. So I like people to just start building their awareness. So at the beginning of every rep, okay, so whether you are squatting, you could even be doing a push-up, but at the beginning of every rep, I'm going to check in, where is the weight distributed in my feet? And you're just going to check in on that again and again. you will start to notice trends, you will start to notice asymmetries, and you will figure this stuff out on your own.
That's fantastic too. So to put it in our tiny habit recipe, I would say after I start my first exercise, my first rep, I will check in with my feet and see where they are. And it's a great way to hone your awareness as well. You know, I want to let you know that we are going to be answering questions in a little bit, and put your questions in the Q&A. They'll go into a separate box, and then we can kind of collate those. We do have a few questions already that I see in there, and because you guys were so generous and shared your challenges in the chat, we're going to definitely address those issues for you too. And for the few people who have been typing in there that you want to become a coach as well, we do have a way for you to do that at the end. This is not anything that we're, this basically, I see that you need this. And so don't worry, there's always a way for you to come and join our community. But this is really about helping you become more fit and be more consistent. So all the other coaches here did become Tiny Habits coaches, probably for a similar reason as you're typing in the chat. And I want the coaches to share their own personal stories or their success stories of ways that they have used Tiny Habits, or maybe some of their clients have as well. So Tony, do you want to start us off again?
Absolutely. You know, I became a Tiny Habits coach. First of all, I didn't even know it was a thing. So that was cool when I found out this was a thing. But what I realized was a lot of the successes that I've had personally started tiny, you know, and I can speak from a very personal standpoint, having a young boy on the autism spectrum. We were going through a lot of stuff when he was 2-3 years old, not talking. We didn't know what was going on. He's 19 now and in college, so he's doing really, really good. But it was all these little steps and patience and consistency. And there were some things that did not work. So you look back on that, and I would look back on my own life too. I mean, at 35, I was on three medications, realized this isn't right. You know, something's got to change. And it was all these little things, these little habits that actually worked. And I realized that with clients, the clients that typically stick with it and have long-term success, it's really, really exciting to see that, because they're sticking to the little things, the little habits. And again, the ability factor is something we can always dial up, dial down. Andrew, I was mentioning to you on Clubhouse, out sick for 2 weeks with the flu. Couldn't, lift weights. It really wasn't a smart thing to do. But what I could do is I could do some stretching. I could do I just dialed things back, and I just went right back to what's the simplest thing I can do, and then just build up from there. And so it's very personal for me, but also for clients who've been very successful as well.
And I think what you shared is really common, is this pattern that people have where they've got a great routine and then something interrupts it. They're sick, somebody else is sick, just there's a pattern interrupt, and then they can't stay at that high bar. And so they just stop doing it. And with the Tiny Habits method, what you found and what you're sharing is that you can actually still do that tiny habit recipe of even maybe one plank or, one squat, and get that habit to stay alive. So Josh Bornstein, you want to talk about your story on success and share?
Sure. Yeah. So I went to college at UCLA to be a doctor. My whole family's doctors. And then I got more into preventative health. So I started becoming a trainer there, and I worked for almost a decade as a trainer, traditional strength coach. And I started realizing that I became very good at helping people build muscle. But I had one particular client that, and many of them started to happen, where I just couldn't help them lose weight. Once they left and they went home, I didn't really, I wasn't going to text all of them 10 times a day and say, did you have French fries? Right? There was something, I didn't have the skill set. And I realized that to get to the next level, there was something else going on here, and it was behavioral. And so in 2016, I started looking up everything on the internet, and there was a little Wikipedia post about Dr. Fogg on there. And I called him up. He had his number, and I literally called him up. And from then, I've been hooked on his system that he developed. And I immediately started pushing that towards nutrition and weight management. And and untangling negative eating habits, which is a big one. But getting movement started, all the things that are factors to help you, especially lose weight, but just keep consistency with those habits. So it was really out of a necessity of seeing this is what I'm lacking and trying to help with people, and finding a beautiful way, a system that can complement at least the way I look at it. Because tiny habits can be very beautiful and systematic. So there's always a way you can go, and it doesn't have to be so therapy based in a way of exploring these abstract things. It can really get down to the nuts and bolts and things. And for me, I have more of a engineering mindset, so that appealed to me. So that was really what started that journey, and it's only grown from then. And really meeting the whole community, and meeting Linda here, who's on the chat, and really diving into that. And it's still a journey, but yeah, it's been a beautiful ride. So that's where I come from, kind of full circle, coming from wanting to be an orthopedic surgeon to going through, I want to help prevention, to I don't feel like I'm doing enough, to finding BJ. So it's a really beautiful road. So that's been my journey of getting here to this point.
And what happened with that client? Like the client that was a challenge, what
I
success did you see from that, from kind of finally employing this?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is that I don't know where he is now. I wish that I could. That was like 6 years ago. And
Oh,
and
that was the impetus. That was the
yeah,
impetus.
that was the impetus. That was the
I get it.
change. And as any fitness coach, you realize, I wish I could call everyone up that I trained 10 years ago and say, like, I wish I knew more. When you understand something valuable, everyone's on that journey. So I would, if I could run into that person, or I need to search harder and find that guy again,
Well,
and say,
either on the webinar.
started
Either on the
everything.
webinar right now, or they're going to listen to the replay.
Exactly. If he was on here right now, I mean, that would be the craziest thing ever. But yeah, he was the catalyst. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Jeff, share a success story around tiny habits for you or your clients.
Oh gosh. You know, for years I was flummoxed by this need for motivation. A lot of people hire a personal trainer. That's a thing. They'll say, I need you to motivate me. And I'm not a yelly guy. I'm not, I never quite knew what people meant or how I was going to do that, because I knew the people that I worked with, it was pretty much a conversation. We just find the sweet spot for them in terms of challenge, and things began to fall into place. But people would struggle, and often people who I thought would be really successful, who seemed supremely motivated, within the first few weeks, they would drop off. And eventually I learned that if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'd like to do 2, maybe 3 times a week, I'm not sure about my schedule. If I see they're problem solving right away, it's a good sign. When people come and say, I want to do 5, 6, maybe 7 days a week, and I can see it, like there's a fire in their belly to do it. To me, that's a red flag, because I know, and you might have experienced this yourself. That lasts about 3 weeks, maybe 6, maybe, before things start to fall off. And so, understanding that motivation wasn't the answer, I began to look at, well, what really works for people. And when I finally came across Tiny Habits, I almost read it in a perfunctory way, or that's how I picked up the book, because I just read everything on habits. I have for the last decade plus. And I just thought, all right, well, I'll just tick another box. But what I realized reading it was everything that I knew to work was in there, was better articulated, quite frankly. I was a little mad about that, but it was like it was much better than I'd really been able to capture. And I recognized immediately what was working, had really been codified, and there were a few, and there were a bunch of holes in my game that the book was able to answer. So
talk about one of the holes, and then how you, and then how it benefited you.
Right. So for me personally, now I don't have a problem, working out per se. I don't even love, I'm not I'm not the guy that's wearing like microfiber shirts. outside. You know what I mean? Fitness isn't my identity in that way. I do this because it helps my brain work better. I feel better. Cognitively, emotionally, I'm a better person. I'm more enjoyable to be around when I'm exercising consistently. But I know other people struggle with that. And one of the largest sort of burdens or hurdles that I found has been this cultural buildup around ideas about intensity and what exercise is supposed to look like. And the truth is, if you're trying to be an elite athlete, if you're trying to get, you're at 98% of, your genetic potential, and you're trying to move to 98.5, and you need a full-time team for this and a multi-million-dollar budget. Okay, that's another thing. But if you're like most people who are saying, I just like to be a bit fitter, literally all you have to do is a little bit more. And for a lot of people, if we move aside like the ideas of these workouts about intense plyometrics and things looking like a Rocky montage, and say walk more, or come in and find a version of this that you enjoy, that stuff works. And so I always say I'm in the consistency business. So in terms of constructing things based on tiny habits, even the workouts themselves, I will take it a step by step. The first thing you do in a workout, the first thing we do at our gym is breathe, because nobody, no matter how tired they are, no matter how stressed they are, will ever think about what they're going to do first and feel overwhelmed by that. Next thing's just a little bit more. We build them into a place. So it's really sort of the methodology is embedded into the DNA of how we approach fitness.
Awesome. And what was coming up for me is that if the first thing you do is breathe, no one is really going to say, I don't have time to breathe, right? Like that is literally, no one's going like, wait, I'm going to stop breathing and let me do these 10 other things first. So just getting present in the moment and breathing. And what I really think that people need to hear here, I want to highlight for everyone, is that whatever you're doing, you only have to do a little bit more to get the results you want. And you are so much closer to success than you think. So I think what we're hearing from all of these experts right now is that if you're thinking that whatever you need to do to get fit is a lot, it's not. That you are very close to success. And with employing some tiny habit recipes, you can see the consistency that you want to see and the results that you want to see. Josh Hollingsworth, share a success, share your success or a success of that you've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll speak to not needing very much time to be effective and getting in, a good workout. So unlike Jeff, I guess, I enjoy working out. I've always been into it. I feel like it's kind of part of my identity. Started working out in high school, strength training and cardio and stuff, running and whatnot. Spent a lot of time in the gym, in college, but now married, have a career, have 2 young kids, not much time to go to the gym. So I use body weight exercises, right? Push-ups, squats. I have a suspension trainer hanging on my office door, a TRX if you're familiar, but something that you can do a pulling exercise with. So angled rows. So I do, 3 or 5, maybe 6 sets, kind of designed into my daily routine, strength training. And it takes very little time. I mean, literally, if I just do my tiny habits recipes and tiny behaviors, it's literally like less than 2 minutes to do the 6 sets. Even if I do it with high effort, it's less than 5 minutes a day. And I honestly feel like I'm in the best shape of my life as far as like strength goes. And it's amazing to me how little time it takes to be effective, right? And I mentioned that I teach pharmacology. My research, I'm a PhD also, so I do research and focus on facilitating health behavior change, tiny habits, the Fogg behavior model, behavior design more broadly is the most effective thing that I've found for closing that intention to implementation gap, right? A lot of people we've mentioned this several times, I think, good intentions. They want to exercise more. They want to eat better. Implementation is the problem for a lot of people. And tiny habits to me is the solve there. And I've worked with medical students, office workers, using these, body weight exercises designed into their daily routines to get a lot of benefit and pretty remarkable results for the time it takes.
And, you know, I think we often say everyone knows how to do it. They just don't know how to get it done. Right. We all know how to do a squat or do a pull up. Whether or not we're good at it is a different story, but sometimes we just don't know how to get it done. And so when all of you coaches know that this can really lead to really consistent behavior that can really help you get fit. So I want to take some questions that we have and really talk about, I'm going to throw it to you coaches, because motivation seems to really come up when it comes to fitness routines. I mean, it comes up in other areas, but it seems to be really honed in the fitness arena. And so let's help people. I mean, we as coaches know why motivation is not the winning ticket, but who wants to talk about motivation so we can really put people's minds at ease here? Just hop off mute.
I'll jump in. I have a story I'd like to share with you. And this was told to me by a hockey coach who probably, I think his claim to fame is he's worked with more NHL athletes. Pardon me, he's a strength and conditioning coach for hockey than anyone else. And he was talking to me about a fancy facility we had in Toronto years ago. All the best personal trainers. And this, an older woman, she was maybe in her mid 60s, used to come in and she was a widow. They knew, and she would sit on an exercise bike next to this guy, and they would, you know, bike it at not a particularly intense pace for 30 or 40 minutes. And every once in a while, if they felt like it, they'd do a set of resistance training. And that was it. And this went on for, I don't know, a year and a half. And this personal trainer wound up taking a job outside of the city, and he left. And all the other trainers were like, finally, now we're going to get her some proper training. We're going to get a real pro in here. And they brought a guy in, and they did a dynamic warm up, and they, you know, they integrated low level plyometrics, like everything highly technical, all by the book. And she came about twice, and that was the end of it. That was the last they saw of her. And what they came to realize over time was, hey, that was an important social relationship. A lot of her friends had passed away or moved away. You know, she was alone. So that time together, it was just something that was enjoyable for her, and it happened to be centered around a health habit. So it is a reminder to me always that perfect is really not required here. What you want to start with is not, and this is what a lot of people do. They'll say, what's the most effective version of this? What is the most effective exercise? But I highly recommend starting with the question, what do I enjoy the most? What am I interested in? What do I think I might be good at and be able to develop skills around? Because if you are moving consistently, you're going to do just fine. It really doesn't have to be the world's most perfect workout.
Awesome. Who else wants to jump in about motivation?
Jump on that one too, because you know, the fitness industry, social media as well, you see all these high intense workouts 6 days a week. We're motivated to do so, but you know, there's a lot of people out there that are afraid of working out. They are not comfortable with it. And I think just asking the question is, what are you doing it for? I mean, are we doing it for functionality? Because we just want to work on stability. We want to make sure we're getting up and down the steps. I always say, if you're going down to the floor, have a plan to get up, right? I mean, we want to make sure we have a plan to get up. The older we get, especially. But so are we doing it for functionality? Are we doing it just for health, right? Just go walk, you know, walk, and it's good for heart health. It's good, you know, just even 5 to 10%, you know, loss of some body fat. Just by, you know, working that way, or is it fitness, or is it performance? But it doesn't have to be these much higher levels, because every level serves a purpose. And even if you're on a high performance level, there's days where you're going to work on stability. There's days you're going to work on flexibility. So I think taking the pressure off to not feel like, oh, I'm going to wait till I'm motivated to do 6 days a week. Well, no, we don't have to do that. It could be very light. It could be very short. It could be for what you need to serve your purpose for your lifestyle. And that really, I think I've noticed, takes a lot of pressure off people thinking, oh, I thought I had to do, you know, because this is what I saw my friends do. It's like, no, we can get to that point if you want, but always there's an ebb and flow to it.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for people to hear from fitness experts like you all. So if you are listening to this webinar live or in the recording, and you've been, you know, bombarded by the social media workouts and all the programming that you had, here are 4 experts that really are sharing with you. You don't have to do that unless you want to. And I think in Tiny Habits, one thing that we all learn is that it's about matching your behavior to your motivation. So when you have high motivation, that's when you buy the TRX pull-up bar, right? And install it. And when you have low motivation, that's when you do a plank or a squat or a push-up against your counter, right? And that keeps your habit alive, and then you can grow your habits from there. Another question we have, and it's in the chat, and it's also a question, is really about addressing, procrastination, like putting off your routine. For people who are having trouble getting started and keep saying tomorrow, what advice do you have for them? Panelists, just hop off mute.
I'll jump in. So I'll just echo something that Jeff said earlier. I think finding the right behavior is huge, right? The Tiny Habits, we talk about golden behaviors. Behaviors can be effective, that you can do, and that you want to do, right? If you don't have the first two, effective and can do, who cares, right? But then that third piece is super important, because that's going to keep you coming back and doing it. So look for those behaviors. And then also, the right behavior in the right spot in your daily routine, right? Finding that good anchor moment where you're going to have more motivation, more energy, and that type of thing. Like, I know I'm more likely to do my exercises with higher effort if I kind of front load my day, do them earlier in the day. But just find, explore a few behaviors, find something that's going to be effective for what you're going for and that you want to do. And then what does the first 30 seconds of that look like? Focus on that. Focus on getting started, right? Focus on consistency. That's what Tiny Habits is all about, to help you consistently get started, feel good about getting started for those behaviors that need to grow, right? And build that automaticity. The more automatic you do it, the stronger the habit.
And I think that is usually where people think that things have to be big, that you can just take the very next action that you're going to do. We have another question, and I also want to share for people listening that we will have a PDF of the Tiny Habit recipes, 3 from each of these coaches, that you can just jump in and try. And at the beginning of this recording, this webinar, the coaches did share some of those that you can just start. If it appeals to you, you don't have to do all of them, but start where you're motivated, where you think, like, I can do that, I'll give that a try. Because as Joshua Bornstein says, like, you don't necessarily need to go deep into your psyche about why you're not doing this. Just try some Tiny Habit recipe that seems like they might work for you. We're getting a few questions about weight management, and I think a few of you, it's weight management and body composition go hand in hand. So who wants to talk a little bit about how to use Tiny Habits for weight management and with your expertise, share your expertise?
Sure, I can jump on that. Yeah, a lot of weight management comes from, and I know there was a question in the Q&A as well, is how to use Tiny Habits to remove habits and untangle negative habits. A lot of that is some things in life, and when you're making habits, it's just, I need to add these habits and then it'll be great. But so much with nutrition is like, well, you can eat healthy food and then also eat unhealthy food. It's not mutually exclusive sometimes. So that's a huge part of using Tiny Habits, is disrupting negative habits. And in a really short way, without going into it too much, Tiny Habits is a beautiful method to approach this, because no matter if you're creating habits or reducing habits, you're still making tiny habits. So you want to make positive things that will disrupt negative things, right? So if this is food, right, it could be after I feel like I have a sugar craving at night, I will first drink a glass of water. It's okay if you then have a donut afterwards, but you're going to commit to that thing first. And what ends up happening is, for a lot of people, they think like they want something sugary, but they're actually thirsty. And so if you just commit to that, now it's disrupting, it's a demotivator for something else, right? On a movement side, if after work, it's like, oh, I'm tired, I just want to sit in front of, like, watch Netflix or something like that, right? But the tiny habit is after I put my work stuff away, when I get home, I will put on my workout clothes and walk to the oak tree in front of my house. You can like walk straight back in and start watching Netflix. But what happens is you insert these small things in your day that deflect you, that tap into your existing routine, that make things easier for you, and make things that you don't want to do harder. And by planting them successfully, you can start to weed out some of these negative habits. The biggest thing, this is an anecdote that I don't know where it came from, but, and maybe many of you have heard it, but there's this old saying of two wolves inside of you fighting, and it's which one wins, and it's the one you feed. And it doesn't really matter if it's positive or negative energy. If you say, okay, I'm not going to do this coming week, I'm not going to do this, you're focusing on that negative part, as opposed to, let me use these small strategic habits to create this positive thing, and whatever else happens. But you'll find if you just focus on that, you realize, oh, I'm actually eating this less, or I'm actually moving more instead of just, falling on my couch. So that's a really intro to how tiny habits is specific for weight management, because a lot of it is reducing habits, but it can be really effective in doing that in a non-motivational approach, and just a focusing on positive and slowly changing your identity in the way you move through your day. So
I think that's so well said. And I will also share that what we've seen as Tiny Habits coaches is these tiny habit recipes actually set you off on a new trajectory in a kind of mind-boggling way, where you think it's so small that it can't make a difference, but it really does allow you to experience yourself as the type of person who can change. And just those little bits of pattern interrupt allow you to have more agency, even if you do the thing you didn't want to do afterward. You just have that little bit of space where you feel like you have a little more agency to make a different choice. And once you start experiencing yourself that way, then you gain some success momentum and move through with, as BJ would say, success leads to success and change leads to change. So I want to start with our tiny habit recipes that the coaches have for you guys. And we're going to show the slides on the screen. After the webinar, we're in the next few, I don't know, maybe the next week. We haven't quite gotten our timing yet on this. We will send you a link to the recording and the PDF so you can see these recipes and try them out for yourself. We will share some links so you can get some more support in the meantime. And in your invite is a link to where all the coaches are in the Tiny Habits Academy coach directory. So if you want more support from some of these coaches, you can reach out to them directly and get the next piece. So Jeff, you're up first. Share one of your recipes and give us a little more color around it.
Okay, so this is, it's pretty universal. It's pretty meta. It will certainly work for body composition. After I take a bite of food, I will ask myself how I'm feeling. And even the act of checking in with your body. Again, so you can see this is a big theme in how I approach this stuff. We'll begin to ask, you'll ask questions. Do I feel full? Would I feel better if I ate a little bit more? Would I feel better if I slowed down? Would I feel better if I had a drink of water? You can do whatever serves you. And the goal here is not to rely on restrictive behaviors to get the job done. It's just to figure out, where do I feel my best? And by checking in, with a high level of consistency, you will make decisions that have you feeling your best. Okay, that's
Color from Toronto. The Toronto.
Oh yeah, you can hear the sirens in the background here.
It's amplifying how important that is.
Yeah, hopefully it's not that urgent.
And I think that's that specific tiny habit recipe for you too really does share about who you are and how you approach things, so that if someone out there, if they can really understand if you're a fit for them going forward, and also if your recipes might work for them too. So if something's resonating for you, give it a try. Who's up next? I'm trying to remember the direction of the
Looks,
slides.
it looks like I'm the next slide there. You want to
Yeah.
get
Do
that
you
next slide up there?
If you remember your recipe right now, while
Yeah, there we go.
in the tech room,
So,
just go on.
yeah, so, whether your aspiration here is to, get stronger, live longer, look better, feel great, lose weight, build confidence, some strength training is going to move you towards your aspiration, right? And time is a big factor for many, money for others. But instead of talking about one recipe, I just want to point out the tiny behaviors, right? So the first one's 2 push-ups. The next recipe, 2 angled rows. Again, you do need a suspension trainer like a TRX or maybe some elastic bands, a pull-up bar. You could do pull-ups if that works for you, a pulling exercise, and then 2 air squats. So with those 3 exercises, a push, a pull, and a squat, you're hitting all of your major skeletal muscles. You're getting a full body workout essentially with those. And you can design those 3 into your day, into your weekday, and get a really effective strength training session in throughout your day, if that makes sense. And, in those times when you're not motivated, go ahead and do your 2 push-ups. And you're somebody that does push-ups every weekday. When you are motivated, do some more, work a little harder, right? Focus on consistency, try to make it automatic to, if it's after lunch, you come back to the office, do your push-ups, drop down do 2 push-ups, feel good about that. You got the motivation, keep going, do some more. If that's all you do, feel good about it and move on. And with those 3 exercises, you can get a full body workout in. Takes very little time. You increase effort when you're feeling it. And you'll be surprised, I think, by the results you can get.
I think that's fantastic advice. And again, you can see, in even just the push, pull, and a squat, just pick your favorite fitness movements and combine those 3 and make them tiny. So the idea here is to put them in your day where they fit, and you can see some places where they might fit here. And if you don't have an angled row, or you're going to do something else that's a pull, right? Or I don't have one of those, so I don't really know how they work, but you can take those out, find where they fit in your day, and you can see how these behaviors, weaving them in, you can do a whole fitness routine, and then you can grow them if you want. If you put them in the right spot where there's plenty of time, they will easily grow bigger. But also, as you've heard from all these fitness experts, you can just do tiny behaviors all through the day and achieve the same results. So I wanted to, before we go to the next panelist, I want to say, there are a couple questions about tiny interfacing with time and things like that. And the fact is, your tiny behaviors won't take much time, right? And like I said, if you put them in the right spot, they can grow and get a little bit bigger. And you want to leverage your high motivation and do more when you feel like it, but just dial it back on the rest of the time. So I think maybe Jeff is next.
Joshua Bornstein's next.
Joshua Bornstein, there.
Yeah. So one of the biggest ones, I love what the other Josh just said. The power of Josh is combined here.
Josh
Yeah,
Square.
push, pull, and move your legs, right? You can get all the movement patterns in. One that I really like and was part of my first habit too is you really bracing your core and working on that as well. I think that would be like the special add into that. And I the one I have is after a commercial comes on, but really what I love about planks is that they're so effective for your core, but also they fit into a lot of places in your day because you can also watch something or do other things like while you're planking for that minute, right? To add it in. So it could be after I first start a show, I'm going to plank for 10 breaths, or if the commercial comes on, I'm going to plank until the commercial ends, which might be challenging, right? But you can always start with a 10-second plank, just count to 10 up in your head. The point is that there's so many. Another great anchor is microwave, because people set the microwave, it's like a minute or two, and what do you do in between that time, right? So there's all this available real estate in your day to really get in all these movements, and they will add up over time, right? You can find these a great exercises to think about what is something that happens even 5 or 6 times during the day, and then just like Josh had, put a couple air squats there, maybe 3 or 5, right? If you continuously get through your day and you get up to doing 40, 50 air squats in small batches, the amount of blood flow that you get through that is amazing, because we sit all day, right? So when I look at, like, after a commercial comes on, I would do a plank. One of the ways, again, to grow these is, again, start small. I'll plank for 1 second. I had a lady I worked with that she had to start with, I'm just going to get on the floor and get into the plank position, and then I don't have to do anything else. And then we know from Tiny Habits, we celebrate and feel good about what you did there, and then you can move it up from there. So the biggest takeaway I have with especially that first habit is find all those little, if you don't even know what to start with, start an exercise of what are all the available little parts in my day that I have a minute or two where I'm not doing anything, or I just kind of zone out, or there's so many pockets where you can throw in a small exercise that can immediately impact your life.
And I think that's really a valuable exercise for someone when you sit down with your morning coffee or tea in the morning tomorrow or today, depending on what time zone you're in or when you're listening to this. You can just jot down or mentally make some notes about those places during the day where you might be able to do this. And with Josh's first recipe, I really am so glad you explained there was really a spectrum there. So maybe you're like the woman who just all she could do was get on the floor and celebrate that. Or you're the type of person that you're already pretty fit. You can go through a whole commercial series. That's great too. But you can see that this Tiny Habit recipe can meet you where you are. You can get on the floor and just be in the plank position. You can count to 10 in your head. You can do it through a commercial, or maybe you're super fit and you're getting through an entire show. I don't know, like, kudos to you if that's you. So I want to point out that all these Tiny Habit recipes have a spectrum in that. And a few people were talking in the chat that, tiny feels like you shouldn't celebrate it or you shouldn't feel good, and it makes it feel hard to do because of a lot of the pressures. And I want to say that it's got to be tiny and meaningful to you. So if you're super fit, then getting on the floor is not going to be, not even doing the plank isn't going to be for you. If you're super fit, you're going to make it a little bit bigger. So it's tiny and meaningful. All right. Jeff, take us home with some Tiny Habit recipes.
I think it's actually Tony, Andrea, I think Tony.
You know what? I need glasses. I'm just going to own that.
Okay.
I need glasses. I'm trying to act all cool here, but I don't have my glasses.
Well, we could put Jeff in the hot seat again, but let's hear from Tony. That's okay.
I'm human, guys. I'm human. All right.
We're all wearing these black shirts, it's so confusing.
You're always so gracious, Tony. You are very gracious and always, seeing the best for me. So
Just hanging out as a caboose over here. I'm a big proponent of what, Josh just mentioned. I mean, sometimes even if you are working out 45 minutes to an hour in the gym, let's say in the morning, and then you're sitting all day. I mean, the blood flow, you need to get the blood flow, and you can drink all you want, but if you're not moving around, on the second habit that I have was after I finish my coffee, I'll get up and obviously take it to the kitchen, or just get up and walk, whether that's each hour, whatever the case is. But one of my favorites, because for guys, a lot of times we just don't stretch. We work at that flexibility piece. So I'm always looking at as soon as my phone goes off for the end of the night, I'll do a figure 4 stretch. And if you don't know what a figure 4 stretch, of course you can Google it, but basically it's just laying on your back and then basically bringing one foot over your knee, and then basically just kind of tucking your hands through there. Either you're grabbing onto your hamstring or maybe your shin, and you're just basically doing a light stretch with your shoulder blades on the floor. You may need a strap as well too if you're exceptionally tight. But throughout the whole day, we tend to just have our muscles just get tighter and tighter and tighter because we're hunched over the wheel in the car, we're hunched over the computer, we may not be walking around as much as we should. And that particular, and that's what I found, and I know a lot of clients as well too, what they do, it targets the hips, it targets the glutes, it targets the lower back. These are all areas where a lot of people have some issues with those bigger muscle groups. And, you know, this perfect opportunity to do something before you go to bed, because, you know, I always, you know, mention to people, don't major in minors. So, you know, if we want to fix something, we go to a green juice. Well, you know, we just focus on sleep, you know, a night routine and moving the body and, you know, drinking more water, things like that, whatever your thing is. Those are the things that are going to really progress. So even just loosening up the body, I mean, even just the whole routine, we could just do 2 of those per side and really get that tiny habit in. And, you know, throw in a supine spinal twist. You could throw in a shavasana afterwards. You can have a whole routine, and that's where it kind of builds. But even just those little stretches, loosening things up, loosening the muscles to hopefully make your sleep better. Of course, sleep is that's a whole other ball game, but at least that's something that can at least get you in the routine of building a really good evening routine and sleep hygiene. Because boy, when you have good sleep, consistently good sleep, that's a game changer right there.
It is. And actually we will be doing a Tiny Habits for Sleep panel, but you can see how everything weaves in. Linda, would you, let's put Tony's slide up just for a moment before we go to the next thing so that people can see his other Tiny Habits recipes. Again, we
You
will,
should be able to see it. Are you not seeing it, Andy?
no, we're seeing Joshua's.
Oh,
We're seeing Josh Bornstein's.
okay. How's that? That should,
Nope.
nope. Okay, let me exit out of share and exit and come back in.
So for all you, don't worry, we're not gonna, you will see Tony's slide and be able to see his Tiny Habit recipes, but also we will be sending these out. So you have the Tiny Habit recipes to try, and we will be sharing some information that, oh, thanks, Josh. So that, you know, you can rewatch this and get some more info. And then actually it's still on Josh Bornstein's for some reason.
Oh, all right, let's try this.
Try it again. And then
We
Tony,
good?
yeah!
Oh my goodness.
So there. So just know that we will send out a PDF with these in there so that you will be able to do these. I think we've gotten a lot of great fitness questions. You guys have been really generous in sharing your challenges. I hope that we've got to all of them. I think that we got them in the chat, and then we are going to share with you, because people have been asking how to do more with this. And a couple people I shared in the chat, tinyhabitsacademy.com is where all this information is. But there's a few things, you know, what are your next steps, right? So you can go to tinyhabitsacademy.com and all this information is there. I'm going to put that in the chat for everyone to see. And you can also join our 5-day program. It's free, no strings attached, where you get a coach behind the scenes. So it's 5 days of email where you get coached in the Tiny Habits method and why, and a live person like one of these coaches behind there to help you revise and really design a good Tiny Habit recipe, and then to iterate where you need to. You can also reach out to these coaches at the coach directory there. In your invite too, I think we did something new. In your invite to this webinar, the coaches links to their directory and their information is in there, so you can go there. And you can also see the Tiny Habits courses. Some of our coaches have created Kajabi courses to take you deeper into some fitness and health areas, and you can see those there. And finally, for those of you who have been asking about becoming a coach, that's where you do that too. And I will just share that we are not just people who got a certification. We didn't just like check that box so that we could put it on our LinkedIn profile. We really are a community that works together and supports one another. And I personally, and I think others, I can speak for others here, we would love for you to be part of our community. And if you do join it, today is you guys are really blessed because Linda Fogg Phillips, she is the director of the Tiny Habits Academy. She's normally not here, but you can see who you will be training with. And do you feel like sharing a little bit, Linda? No, I'm putting you on the spot. We didn't really talk about this, but if you want to share a little bit about becoming a coach, since like I think 3 or 4 people have asked about how to become a coach in this one.
You know, we have the most amazing community of Tiny Habits coaches, as Andrea has already said. We become a very close-knit family because we all really want to make the world a better place for other people. And not only that, but you get to work with BJ, you get to work with myself. A lot of our other our coaches collaborate together. And as you see, there's so much wisdom in this group that going through the certification will help you take the Tiny Habits method to the next level, not just for yourself, but for your clients. You'll help them overcome the frustration of being stuck and feeling like they're just not progressing. So if you have any questions, I have opportunities that you can schedule a discovery call with me. On the Tiny Habits Academy website, you can go to the link that says get certified. All of our information is there. Also, the link to schedule a call with me is there. I would love to talk to you to see if it's a fit for you and how, and I guess that what sets us apart is after you're certified, your interaction with us is not over. Maybe that's not a good thing, but I think it's maybe that's a good thing. We really help you implement in your practice, and we're there as your support team on an ongoing basis. You have ongoing training with BJ and I. It's just, you know, it just really is a delight for both BJ and I to see how each individual as a coach is impacting the world in their own little circle and not so little circle, impacting the world and making it a better place. And that's really our dream.
And I have to say, I love being part of this community, and I just feel so supported by everybody in it. The coaches like this on the panel. There's plenty of other coaches out there. Linda, you and BJ, supremely supported. And this year, in fact, 2022, it is basically all about elevating coaches. And so if you're part of our community, it's always been that, but that's just really, you know, the laser honed focus in there. So for those of you wanting more, go to tinyhabitsacademy.com, because all I said that right, tinyhabitsacademy.com. All the information is there, and reach out to us because we are here to help you. We're in a lot of different platforms, and you can find us anywhere. Wherever you see us, please reach out to us, and reach out to these coaches if you want to do the 5-day with them, because they will get the specifics for you. So with that, I'm going to thank everybody for joining us, either live or in the recording. Keep an eye out for more panels because they're coming soon. And have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Cheers, everyone.